Welcome back to the Meme Team podcast, where we discuss viral pop culture moments in movies, TV, music, sports, and politics. I'm your host, Sonia Bashez, and this week we're talking about a German soccer fan that has road tripped around the U.S. for the World Cup and live tweeted everything. And then the Knicks is the first time that they've won a title in 53 years, and every brand and prediction market in New York is getting their hand in. And then a Formula One comms story, which shows you should probably listen to your driver. My guest this week is Jay Kapoor, general partner at VSC Ventures and the host of the weekly show Climb. Welcome to the show, Jay.
Sonia, it is a pleasure to be here. I have just 4 things to say. My mayor is Muslim. My bagel is Jewish. The Pope went to Nova, and the drought is finally over. The Knicks are world champions, and I am thrilled to be on the show with you.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited at like everything that's happening. So many sports things. As we were talking about the outline for this, I was like, wow, everything kind of coalesced around sports, but you're a sports fan, so it works out.
You got the right guy for the right show.
Exactly. Okay, so let's just dive right into it. So Freddy from Germany and the American South. I think what I've liked the most about this is I'm a huge World Cup fan. I've been excited about this to happen in the US forever. But one of the things I've been worried about is just, Americans are just not very well known for liking soccer. So kind of like the ramp up to the World Cup just wasn't as exciting as, it seemed for, previous years. But what has ended up coming out of it is just all these Europeans and the Japanese, the Koreans have kind of descended upon, America and Canada and Mexico, and have just been like genuinely excited to be participating in soccer, football, as the world calls it, and meeting the people that are actually here. So that's the story of Freddy, LA7 on X, who has been, tweeting since June 8th when he got here. And he flew into the South and started live tweeting everything that he's doing. He started in New York, flew to Atlanta, then drove through Georgia, Tennessee, and Alabama, and was basically just kind of being very wholesome about how he was talking about America and then his whole experience. He's had a couple of bad things that have happened. He his shoes got wet while they were doing a river cruise. They had to go to Walmart. But then he also had just moments of wholesome fun with Americans, driving him to the stadium, or, he got invited to an Ella Langley show because he, started listening to them on the road trip. And it kind of just showed how sport just kind of comes above everything and gets everybody to come together. And I think this is another thing that Jay and I have been talking about. It's just the idea of everybody wanting to come together and participate and be in IRL events with other people. And what does that mean for brands, for marketing? I think it means that if you can try to get your community to come out and participate in some way, you're going to have a far better time with your fans than if you just try to continue keeping everything online. And then also sure enough, a lot of brands have started jumping in and started to invite Freddy to like I said, Ella Langley invited him. I just saw that, someone in Vegas invited him to come stay at, their hotel. He got invited to a game in Houston with JJ Watt. All these famous people are reaching out to him because it's bringing out the best in everybody. So Jay, obviously you've seen this. Would love to know your thoughts, just kind of how you're seeing it as we're seeing, I guess, America through the eyes of a German guy and his friends as they're traveling through America.
I think, Sonia, this is the beauty of sports. This is what brings people together. It's what brought me into sports and working in the sports business over a decade ago before I started working with startups. It's that excitement, and I just from a personal level, when I think about going to games with my dad and that being our bonding moment and seeing the emotion on this very stoic man's face when we're in a game, it's just that in a microcosm is what happens when you have these amazing events like the World Cup, when you have the NBA championship, really any live sporting event where people are together, you get these beautiful moments. And so to me, I think Freddy is just a great example of somebody who's tapping into that excitement. We may not be the biggest football or soccer country, but people are excited that this thing is being hosted here. And this is, and first time in a generation that we are hosting it here. And celebrating all of these visitors coming to our country.
Mhm.
And, to your point of like seeing the country through the eyes of an outsider, it's
Mhm.
kind of a beautiful, like, fish out of water story. Like, I love movies, and I love when there's like a, Avatar, or, one of these movies where like the guy is just completely new to this thing and he's
Mhm.
fumbling his way through it, discovering his way through it. It's very endearing. And I
Yeah.
think those endearing stories bring people in, and they're rooting for him. And
Mhm.
I love stories like that. I love Instagram stories and reels where, there's a person who's like never had, Cuban cuisine before, and finally
Yeah.
has a Cuban sandwich, or has
Mhm.
never
Mhm.
had like Indian cuisine before, and like talks about, oh my God, it's a party in my mouth. Like, these
Mhm.
are such great moments of humanity where people are experiencing each other's cultures, they're experiencing the sport together. I mean, I can totally see why brands want to be a part of it, right? Because it's feel good. And
Mhm.
in this moment where, yeah, a lot of things can divide us, to find things that are feel good and uniting, totally makes sense why brands want to be a part of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think the other thing that's also become a big story that I also think I don't want to say it's like purely American, but it does have those like underlying things that just like plug away at like the American soul, which is so this is the first time that they've invited 48 countries to participate in the World Cup. And I think today we saw two of like the giants, not like fall to smaller countries, but one kept so that was Cape Verde kept Spain at bay by basically it was a tie game.
Yeah.
And then there was the Curaçao game against Germany where like for 15 minutes they equalized the game and it was just like holy shit, you know? And I really think it was one of those things of like Americans love an underdog, right? Like that's just
Yes.
what we do. And when these moments are happening, it's like this is like sports come alive. Like these are those stories that like, you know, whenever I think about like those like Miracle, right, on hockey where it's like you had the Americans beat the Russians like when they were the better team, but like here comes America and like the spirit of, you know, them uniting and coming together and like making this happen against like the giant, you know. And so like those stories are like you know, every day I'm seeing like them come across like my feed, and it's like those things where it's like it feels so novel because it is
Yes.
happening here. It's the first time that, you know, so many teams have made it to the World Cup for the first time. I'm seeing is how much sports journalists, you know, the companies that are, you know, talking about sports are putting together like fan cams and then like, you know, photos of these like milestones as quick as possible so that they can like show, you know, showcase the moment, you know. The
Yeah.
fact that today the goalie saved, I think it was like 26 you know, direct attempts from Spain. Like he was man of the match, he was crying like on camera, and it just like plugs away at your heart because you're like, oh my god, this is like what sports is supposed to do, is like bring us all together to cheer on like a country that, you know, I mean, you've seen online that many people haven't didn't even know existed, you know, which is horrible to think about, but you know, that's another very American thing, you know. Um but the point is that like it is a way for us to like rally together and like, you know, unite, right? And then some other ones that I've seen is like how Korea playing in Mexico. And so you had like Mexican fans partying with like Korean fans and like, you know,
I
and we
saw
had the
that. That
Scottish
was so
fans
fun.
in like Boston, right? So it's like you have everybody just being accepted and welcomed into the city. And I think that those are like opportunities here of like how can brands that are in those cities like try to, you know, invite in the people that are visiting because they want to, you know, be involved with like the sports, you know. So
It's great PR for the country,
mhm,
because it's showing the hospitality of these small towns that Freddie's going through, or
mhm,
the big cities where the games are being held. And it's highlighting the diversity of these
mhm.
cities, right? And you're seeing, as you said, um, Mexican fans dancing to Gangnam Style with Korean
Yeah.
fans. Like what a great. I mean, this is what it's about. Like, this
Yeah.
is, I have a fun story for you from Saturday night about exactly that. But
Yeah.
because Brazil and Morocco were playing here
That's right.
in New York, I'll tell you about
Mhm,
that in a bit. But It is actually America in a microcosm, right? We
Yeah.
we are a country of diversity, has embraced diversity, a country of immigrants, and so now having visitors come to this country and see it, it's great
Hmm.
PR. Because it's
Hmm.
it's not everything you got on the news there. I remember last summer we happened to be traveling to Paris, and the one conversation we would have with not just French people, but even other tourists that were in Paris from other countries, Australia and whatever, they were like, what's going on over there, guys? How are you hanging in there? Like, what's up? Hopefully,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
things go okay for you. And it like kind of felt weird. Like it
yeah.
felt like somebody was, talking about our country on life support. And so
Hmm.
to have people come here and see the pride that America has for our teams, but also just the joy and the welcomingness of it, barring obviously there's some random things that happen here and there with
Yeah,
every
yeah.
sport and it gets captured and amplified, but like 99% of it is positive. And so, yeah, absolutely. Like brands want to, put Freddy up in a hotel, or JJ Watt wants to reach out and be a part of his journey. It all makes sense. It is that endearing, that welcoming
Hmm.
spirit that just everyday people are trying to showcase. And I think brands can do a good job showcasing that as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Two other things that stood out about this is he hasn't really gone negative, right? Like when something bad has happened, he isn't blaming it on the country. He isn't blaming it on the people. He's not blaming it on the city, on anything. It's just kind of like, oh, like we should have paid the $3 for the locker. Now our shoes are wet, so now we have to go, buy them. But then he used that as opportunity. Oh my God, we're at Walmart. Like this is that store that we hear so much about. It's like when you live here, you're just used to it, right? So like you don't really see the allure anymore. You're like, oh yeah, it's like, the same place. Like, when you go visit like tourist places because people family visits, so you take them to and you're like, oh yeah, I guess the Statue of Liberty is pretty cool, or like the Golden Gate Bridge is pretty nice. But it's like it's always there, so you just don't see it for what it is until you see it through somebody else's eyes. So I think that's what I've really enjoyed about this. And it's not him, but there's other
Totally.
accounts on Twitter as well that have just been, sharing their love of, the country. The other thing too is where I think there's a huge upside for it being in America is that we have so many enclaves of people, right? Like today I learned
Mm.
that there's an enclave of Cape Verde, citizens in New England. And they're all like, there's video of them watching the game today. And I'm like, that is so cool. Like, because I remember, so when we lived in New York, whenever we went to go watch like a World Cup game, we'd go to like a restaurant or bar that like, was of like the nation that we were supporting, right? So we'd go to like a German restaurant or like a Brazilian bar, right? We get to do that a lot here in LA as well. But that happens throughout America where it's like if you want to support the nation, you can find a place that has people from those countries, there, like, wanting to invite people to celebrate with them as they go through this like, milestone. So I always think that's like really cool that it's like um that is what our country is like built on, and that this is kind of the perfect way of showing it. And then the other thing too is how much we're seeing that like a lot of the European fans are like, oh wow, these stadiums are like amazing, right? Because it's like we're one of the few countries that didn't have to build new stadiums. They're all just like NFL stadiums. I saw some people like, why aren't you doing hosting it at like college football stadiums, which are bigger, have more seating. So it's like really interesting that like I mean, if anything, if it keeps going the way it's going, I wouldn't be surprised if America gets chosen to like host again, with just us, and then including more of those like college football stadiums and other stadiums that are NFL stadiums or whatever, to be hosted. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens after this.
I think the other piece of it too, as people are actually like experiencing these things, is being welcomed into other sports. You were just talking about
Hmm.
like, the NFL stadiums. Oh, who plays here? The LA
Hmm.
Rams. Okay, what are they about? And now it actually has a boost to the NFL. Here in New York, all of these, Brazil and Morocco fans
Hmm.
were cheering with us Knicks fans.
Hmm.
We're all out there in our kits and like having a great time and
Hmm.
partying with them. And it was really beautiful to see. Like, I think it was good that Brazil and Morocco played each other to a tie, so nobody had any ill will towards each other, and
Hmm.
so all the fans were out on the streets and having a good time. It really does speak to that fact of like, it is so welcoming. And
Yeah.
you're right. I think the stadiums have a big part of that too. People see these things and they get interested in, oh my God, you're really putting up 60,000 people to come watch this thing? Okay, I should
Mhm,
maybe take an interest in, the New England Patriots or the LA
mhm, mhm.
Rams. And I think that's a cool part of it too.
Yeah, I saw somebody, they were here for the, SoFi game, and they, were like, "I wanted to go to, like, the Dodgers to watch a game, but it wasn't playing, so we went down to, Anaheim for the Angels game." And I'm like, "You know what? Sure, why not?" Like, and then I saw today that, a bunch of the Scottish fans were going to, Fenway so they could watch, a baseball game, and it's like, how cool is that? That not only do you get to come to watch, a World Cup game, but then you also get to watch baseball or, basketball and participate in the other like sports that are happening here at the same time. Okay, so a couple lessons for this is that sincerity scales in ways that manufactured content doesn't. So the reason why I think this is working so much is that, Freddie has no budget, no strategy, no team. It's just his genuine reactions to things. And you can't really reverse engineer that, right? Like it has to come from the person, and then everybody kind of glomming on to that. Like he went from having like no following to about like at last I checked was like 480,000 followers on Twitter just to follow his journey. And then that's how like brands are now jumping in, right? Where it's like they're inviting him to come and stay at their like fancy hotel, and he's posting videos of being there, and talking about the food and like barbecue and all that, where it's like the fact that he is being sincere and genuine is attractive to Americans who want to see that type of wholesome content. I have seen other people also do some of that wholesome content, but what I'm seeing less of actually is that negative content. I think there's just not that much of an appetite for it, because it's like it's actually really fucking cool to be here and go to like the stadiums and be participating with people who all want to be there and eat new food and eat, and drink and all that, and have like the parties. To be here with the baseball games and the Knicks, like winning. It's just a great time to be here. So, I'm not seeing any like negativity in terms of the brands either that are reaching out to him to give him like free stuff, right? It's just like, no, let's welcome him more and, in the process get publicity. So what are ways for you to kind of participate in that? Is there a way for you to jump in on that and, give somebody else a good time for like how they're participating in it? The other thing is that foreign eyes defamiliarize what locals no longer notice. The fact that he's going through all these things makes people see what we consider to be everyday things and see them in a new light. So, what are ways that you can refamiliarize your audience with your product or service? And then the last one is that audiences can feel the difference between being in person and participating and then seeing it through like a camera. I think, this has gotten people to like really, want to be in person and like meet other people. And I feel like it's gotten people to be like, I'm okay meeting like a stranger because we have this huge thing in common, soccer, right? Or like the Knicks, which we're talking about a little bit, coming together as like a city. So like what are ways to bring people together and have them, get to know each other because they like your brand or because they want to participate with your community?
You mentioned something really interesting there, which is people don't really want negative content around this.
Hmm.
And I think it's kind of like that thing where like only I get to beat up on my little brother kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like
Yeah.
you don't want to engage with content of people coming here and telling us all
Hmm.
the problems America has. We know. We live here. We're working on it, guys,
Yeah.
right? But it's more like, yeah, our infrastructure, our roads, our potholes, like people are
Yeah.
working on that stuff. It's more fun to talk about the positive. And of course, the brands are gonna gravitate towards the positive. So if there's
Hmm.
a lesson to take from it for content creators, it's hey, lean into the stuff that people are enjoying, they're engaging with, the joy, the positivity, and then all the brand associations that come with that. If you're just somebody who's tearing things down,
Hmm.
sure, it may result in like near term eyeballs, but it's not. Why would a brand want to be associated with that, right? They're not going to
Yeah.
come to you. So that's kind of my only takeaway here is like the positivity really comes from the fact that like there's enough negativity out there. Put good things into the world, and like people want to be near that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's a perfect segue into the Knicks winning the NBA championship for the first time since 1973. For 2 weeks, the city was electric in a way it hasn't been in years. People were on the streets outside of MSG trying to celebrate. And even when they were in San Antonio, one of the great things about Mamdani being a Knicks fan was that he wanted people to be outside and celebrating. And I think it was one of the first times that I've seen a city kind of open up its gates to like let people find other people and like hang out, right? They had watch parties in Central Park, they had watch parties outside of Bryant Park, and then all throughout the city. Even like, when there was the, Trump showing up for game 3 and like, Jimmy Dolan like closing the fan viewing area in front of the stadiums, like Mamdani's like, okay, let's turn on the TV so people can go there, and then opened up Bryant Park so people could go like chill there because he knew how important it was for everybody to be outside supporting their team in a way that like hasn't really been seen in a really long time. Jay, I know you're in New York, you're a Knicks fan, and you mentioned that you went to one of the games. So tell us what the vibes are like like in the city.
The vibes are at an all-time high, Sonia. I don't know how else to describe it right now. I was telling somebody, you walk down the street and you greet people with Nixon 5. It's like
Yeah.
aloha to us. We start the sentence with it, we end the sentence with it, and everybody's just embraced it. You see somebody wearing blue and orange, and you
Yeah.
just dap them up, give them a high five, and it's just it has the feeling of a like D1 football school. I went to a nerd school. Our sports
Yeah.
weren't very good. My sister went to Indiana. So whenever I
Yeah.
would visit her, everybody's repping the colors, everybody's
Mhm.
cheering. The student athletes that are on campus are like mini celebrities.
Mhm.
That's how it feels. That's how it feels in the
Mhm.
city right now. And has really, I would say, since the start of the playoffs,
Yeah.
especially during the finals, obviously, I think everybody's piled on. Everybody wants a piece of the Knicks. They want to be a part of it. But for those of us that are fans, we've been threading this line between like just stress and anxiety and
Mm.
just pure elation. And also just given how this team plays, because we always play from behind, especially in the
Mhm.
finals. I think in the other series leading up to this, we were kind of beaten up on teams. And then we
Mhm.
got into the Spurs series and it was like instantly the Knicks are always behind. But it embodies, I think the reason this city has embraced these Knicks specifically is because they embody this like spirit, this camaraderie. They're all friends from college, or three of them are that have played
Mhm.
together. They play from behind, but they find a way to win. Um, it's kind of just a perfect microcosm of this city. Like, it is the biggest city in the country, and yet it still feels like a small town. I'm stealing that from the mayor, who said something very similar this morning. But it really has that small town feel. Everybody's talking about
Yeah.
the same thing. Everybody's hoping for
Mhm.
the same thing, and it's really meaningful. And then again, from a brand and marketing standpoint, it just kind of like becomes this thing that people really want to be a part of. But that aside, just like the organic culture of it, the watch
Mhm.
parties. Um, you mentioned the thing about the streets. I'll tell you a fun story. There is a group of people in West Village, right? The
Mhm.
Village, for those that maybe haven't been, pretty tight streets, right? You can
Mhm.
kind of like talk to your neighbor across the street. If you live on an avenue, a little bit further apart,
Mhm.
but these streets are really on top of each other. And what this group did was they didn't have a big enough TV, so they took a projector on their fire escape and they
Yeah.
cast it onto a blank spot on a wall. And they just started this during the Atlanta Hawks series, and it was like 10, 15 people joined. Then it became 50. Then it became 100. Then NYPD shows up, and you think, oh man, the party's over.
Mhm.
But no, NYPD just showed up with barricades to block off the street to keep people safe from traffic. And they said, party on, everybody. And
Yeah.
like that party on spirit in New York, I don't know. I've lived here 16 years, and like that party on vibe is
Mhm.
just like such an amazing thing to behold. And people are really leaning into it. Brands are leaning into it. The government's leaning into it. People just want
Mhm.
to be around these Knicks. And they've given us something to really be proud of and believe in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So a couple things here in terms of like marketing and what I've seen are good examples are the way Mamdani has uses as like a communications like masterclass and like how to keep people enjoying the game and like being a part of it, opening up the city, like making that like collegialness part of like how you want to relate to your fellow man. When the thing happened with James Dolan canceling the party outside MSG, I mean, the man was at a game watching, or starting to watch it, and then he's like working behind the scenes to like come up with a response for that, right? He was very open and transparent, communicating with, his fans on Twitter, making sure that everybody understood what was happening and giving them like a play by play so that like they knew that it wasn't him and his administration, but without it being having any like rancor, like negativity. It was like, no, this is what happened. They applied for this application for only 999 people, and then they canceled it. And James Dolan's like, well, we wanted to have more people there. Um, and then he's like, well, this is what you applied for, showed, like what happened. And then like by being transparent about it and not really like going after him, he like put, people were on his side. The other thing too is, how brands have been responding to, the
Yeah.
win itself, right? Like Nike, as usual, has come out with one of like the best commercials out there. The fact that they didn't make it about the team, about the Knicks, they made it about the fans and how long they've been waiting for this win to happen, was like the best way to go about it. It shows a guy who's like wearing a Knicks jersey, like running through the city trying to get to like a party, and like everyone's there playing on the streets. And it was directed by Josh Safdie, who just, did Marty Supreme with Timothée Chalamet. Timothée Chalamet, who's also like a huge like Knicks fan. Basically, like New Yorkers, for New Yorkers, by New Yorkers, like participating in the whole thing. And I thought it was just like all these like little like Easter eggs to like fans being like, we are of you, we understand you, and we're making this about you instead of about the team, and I thought that was like a great way of celebrating, the team themselves, because they also were putting it back to the fans, right? Who have been, with them for so long. Another one is Kalshi commercial. Maybe I didn't get it, but I thought it was like a little dumb. And the whole like Timothée Chalamet actually like doing it. I'm like, oh, is that really who you want to like go after? Like you're on such a high right now. Like, even the fact that he lost the Oscar and like people are like saying that he traded in his Oscar so that the Knicks could win,
Spiritually, I don't think he
Exactly.
physically
No,
traded it in,
totally,
but he
totally,
spiritually
totally.
traded it
Right.
in.
But spiritually, right? It's like one of those deal with the devils, right? The fact that that's like where people are like going with it means that they're in their minds, it's like, oh, like they get his intensity and that's fine. But then he goes and like does the Kalshi. So I do wonder if that's gonna like further ding his brand, but we'll see.
A really interesting thing that you brought up, Nike and Kalshi, and I'll compare and contrast the two a little bit
Mhm.
as a fan, right?
Mhm, mhm,
Like that Nike commercial hit right here, right? Because it put the fans front and center.
mhm.
It was shot at street level. I used to live on
Oh,
8th
really?
Avenue, so I
Yeah,
remember like,
yeah,
he's kind
yeah,
of like that feeling of being right outside the Garden after a game.
yeah.
Everybody's
Mhm.
coming out, everybody's cheering. And it was beautiful, like even the music, right? The music didn't choose that Jay-Z Alicia Keys
Right.
song or the Frank Sinatra song. It picked Billy Joel, who's an
Mhm.
MSG icon and has
Mhm,
done the
mhm.
most shows in the Garden ever. It was so like ball, like it was so
Yeah.
like New York,
Yeah.
and it put the fan and their emotions front and center. And I think good marketing does that. When good
Yeah.
marketing leans in on hope and just like longing and this stuff, like this arousal marketing in a way is
Yeah,
really
yeah, yeah,
powerful. And I want to contrast that to Kalshi, who I have many four-letter words for, because they are showcasing, I think, some of the worst parts of fandom, right?
yeah.
And it's not they are a photocopy of a photocopy. They are
Mhm,
drafting off of what Side Talk was already doing.
mhm,
Side Talk, if you were following some of these videos years ago, was going outside the Garden and just recording people's reactions as they came out of like a stunning overtime win. Like stunning. People haven't even just processed, but the Knicks have won somehow. And people
mhm.
are thrilled and they're jumping up and down. And yeah, maybe a couple guys are burning some jerseys, but like it was joy. And then like it kind of turned dark, where people are trying to do more and more silly things, climb
Mm,
on lampposts, jump on things, throw rocks at stuff. And it became like a nature documentary.
hmm.
And Kalshi, it wasn't of the fans. It was, look at these fans, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference. The emotional connection to that content wasn't really there. Even the guy who did the "My Mayor Muslim, My Bagel Jewish,"
Hmm.
few people know he got that from an Instagram comment. That was some person somewhere commented, and then he
Yeah.
must have remembered it and in the moment recited it verbatim. But the reason I know is because my Christian Dior is a very specific reference that was in a
Hmm.
comment on some other side talk video years ago, right? And so
Interesting.
it's
Yeah, I
fine.
didn't
It's
know
beautiful
that.
because yeah, most people don't. He brought it to the world, and it's
Hmm.
great, right? But then the brand co-opted it. In the moment,
Hmm.
very pure. The only thing about it was there was a Kalshi mic in it, but in the moment, that guy just spewed pure poetry, and
Hmm.
everybody was super happy for him. And you know, he's a young guy, he's a young Knicks fan, he's never seen like really any success from this Knicks team,
Yeah.
and he was excited, and I love that for him.
Hmm.
And then they brought him back to a game, and they put him in a jersey with the Kalshi logo, and he happened to
Hmm.
be at game 4. And as I was walking out, yeah, I saw this like dog and pony show happening, right? These guys trying to make content. And this is
Hmm.
kind of my beef with this stuff, is like, even people who are in the moment cannot be in the moment. It's
Hmm.
all about anticipated memories. It's all
Hmm.
about, let me record this because later I may want to see it. Let me record this because I may want to put it up and get some clout for it. And I'm not even talking
Hmm.
about the brands, right? I'm just talking about people,
Sure.
like just everyday
Hmm.
people want to record this stuff. And you could tell at every finals watch party who had their phones out and who were Knicks fans. Because
Mm.
every Knicks fan I saw, that was a very stressful last 2 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
Phones were down and were just like trying to lock in on what's happening.
Hmm.
And then there's people with their phones out being like, I want to record the reaction of what happens,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
I get it. It's fine. That's just the culture we're in. But when the brands see that, when
Yeah.
Kalshi sees that, when Polymarket sees that, they go, okay, this is a generation now trained on performative content.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what it was. It was performative content. So I don't know, everything that was pure and beautiful about that Nike ad, which is really funny because Nike's like a multi-billion-dollar, multi-generational brand,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
they get the fans.
Yeah.
Whereas I think the Kalshi Polymarket stuff was like, look at these guys, right? And it just, it felt a little voyeuristic and it felt a little dirty. And so, listen, shout out to that guy. He got to come to game
Yeah.
4. It was an amazing game. And he got to do it because he had the most viral, you know, nursery rhyme of all time,
Yeah. Yeah.
Nixon 4. But yeah, it definitely left me as a fan feeling a little bit hollow because I'm like, the joke is on us,
Yeah.
not with us, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I mean, and that's such a good point because this is the question that brands face, right? It's just like, how do you make it so that your intended audience sees that you want to, participate with them, right? Like we just talked about this last week with the Norwegian, soccer team doing the Viking photo shoot because of the war chant that their fans have been doing in the stadium, right? That felt like a tribute of like the team acknowledging our fans are like building this up, building us up, right? Making us feel like Vikings. And now we're going to take that and then run with it and create this, photo shoot with them in mind. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why it was successful is that, it hit their fans right where they wanted it, like the feelings, right? Where it's just like, we are listening to you, we acknowledge you,
Yeah.
we're taking that on now. And I thought it was also like a cool way for them to, take that mentality on, which is like now they're going to be like Vikings going into, their World Cup games and feeling as if they're going to come and like, kick everybody's ass, right? Um, so I thought it was like a great way to show that like and care about your audience. But yeah, Kalshi and Polymarket are both coming from this angle of like, people are already questioning like, are they ruining the sport, right? Like one of the things that I'm
Hmm.
seeing now with like the World Cup is they're posting how much people are betting on games onto
Yes.
their social media, right? Like I saw some guys, they posted today that somebody had bet like $1 million on Spain winning over, Cape Verde. And I was like, wait, so you're showing how much people are betting on your platform. And then when that person loses, they get all this engagement because people are like, oh, ha, ha, look at that person lost $1 million. And I'm like, that's a fucked up thing to be if you are that person who then just lost $1 million betting on your team because, Polymarket posted about it. Like, when did it become okay for a brand to post content using their audience, the people that are paying into their product, as a way to like, build up engagement. And that's just, it doesn't sit right with me. So it's like,
It's
what
not
type of
going to come.
company do you
It's not
want to
going to
be?
come from. It's not going to come from Kalshi and Polymarket.
Hmm.
And I also don't think it's going to come from the leagues because
Hmm.
the teams in the leagues are making too much money off of it.
Hmm.
I think it unfortunately, even though I'm a free market capitalist, though
Hmm.
my joke tweets
Yeah.
may make me think otherwise. I think
Yeah,
it's going to
Mr.
come from
Socialist.
yeah, I think it's really going to come from cities, and I
Hmm.
think people are going to come. It's going to come from potentially states who are
Hmm.
going to see that it is infecting every part of the conversation,
Yeah.
whether it's politics, whether it's sports, whether it's, just everyday news. Um, it's really starting to get away from people. And I think it's the
Hmm.
speed at which it's happened, right? I remember, going back a little bit now, 2015, 16,
Hmm.
it was a really big deal that FanDuel was trying to bring daily
Hmm.
fantasy sports into certain cities. And like 11, 12 states had just banned them outright, right?
Hmm.
And then one by one, they worked their way into getting access to the cities. And then the Supreme Court ruling happened and it was like a flood opened up. And
Hmm.
now you have real time prediction markets,
Right.
which ironically is what FanDuel started as a decade plus ago.
Hmm.
It changes the way fans engage with the sport.
Hmm.
It's no longer about the purity of winning and losing. It's
Hmm.
about how do I profit off of this?
Yeah.
And if we want to go on a tangent for a second, Sonia, I think it reflects the kind of moral core of what this country is right now. I know we were like very
Hmm.
positive about it in the World Cup segment,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but like it's kind of a very what have you done for me lately culture right now.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a very, okay, but what does this mean for my bottom line
Hmm.
culture
Hmm.
right now? And we don't like things to like them. We like things because we believe they will have some kind of a positive effect on us, right? What does
Yeah.
this mean for me? Can I bet on it? Can I profit from it? I'm starting to talk like an old head now, but like it kind of
No, no,
does feel
no.
like
Yeah,
there is
yeah.
a
I
little bit of a
saw this
purity
recently.
of sports
Hmm.
fandom that you
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
lose when it starts to involve these things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So another like I think closely tied thing that happened recently was Phoebe Bridgers just announced she's going on concert this on tour this year, and she has announced that she's gonna have the company Yondr have like bags that you have to put your phone away for the duration of the concert. And she got
Yeah.
such backlash from like, supposed fans that are like, I'm paying you to like be able to like do whatever with my phone. There was like the people who had like the disability concerns. That's another thing. Whatever. I'm not commenting on that. I'm commenting on the people that were like, I paid. Yeah, like I think what really pissed me off is like some people are I'm paying like $40, $60 to
Mm.
go to a concert. I should be able to record whatever I want. You are there to perform for me. And I was like,
Hmm.
whoa, 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 whoa. No, you don't have to buy, concert tickets. You don't have to ruin everybody else's experience because you want to have your phone up. Somebody posted that they're like, some of our friends are counting on us to FaceTime them while we're there to like listen
Yeah.
because they can't afford to go. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? You're FaceTiming somebody to like barely see anything through your phone and you're
Yeah.
affecting everybody else around you because you have your phone up and the light on and you think you should be allowed to do this because you paid $40. Like no, that's not how this works. But it's what you're talking about is this whole idea of like a me 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 me. And it's a similar thing that we see with like movie theaters, right? I've sat next to like people Snapchatting and being on Instagram and I'm like, are you fucking you're here to watch a movie, like stop ruining it for everybody, right? And I think like we do need to have the people that have this power, artists, athletes, push back against, the experience. There are fans that don't want to see that either on their end. And like, I think it would do well for them to speak to that as well as like, we want to have everybody experience this, right?
One of the best things I noticed at game 4,
Mhm.
there was about 7, 8 minutes where the comeback was happening. Nobody had their phones up.
Mhm.
People just had their phones in their pockets, and we were all up on our feet, and we were chanting and cheering and yelling, and it was almost like, we were trying to intimidate the other team. Like, the Garden
Mhm.
was
Mhm.
the sixth man on the court at that
Yeah.
moment. And I wanted to bring this up with you. I was texting you about it earlier, which is like,
Mhm.
there's a real meme nostalgia right now about like
Mhm.
2026 is the new
Yeah.
2016. And I had to like think a little bit. I was in New York in 2016. I
Mhm,
thought this
mhm.
was just a New York thing where
Yeah,
everybody
me
was
too.
really
Mhm.
nostalgic for the summer of
Mhm,
2016.
mhm.
But it's kind of like a maybe global or
Mhm, mhm.
cross America thing. And I was thinking about, what was it in 2016?
Mhm.
And the easy answer is the election, right? Trump got
Mhm.
elected. But it was, I think, a lot
But also
more.
pre-COVID?
Well, so pre-COVID, totally, right? Like, if you think about
Yeah, yeah.
how fast things accelerated after 2016,
Yeah.
all the stuff that was happening. But I think it was actually a bigger thing that isn't talked about. It was pre-algorithmic feed. So the feed
Mm.
right now,
Okay.
when you go on
Yeah.
Instagram, you are pushed into an algorithmic feed immediately. When you go
Mhm,
on
mhm, mhm.
TikTok, it is all an algorithmic feed, right? Your
Mhm, mhm.
Twitter is an algorithmic feed. You are being fed things that you are expected to engage with, that the
Yeah.
algorithm has done a good job building a psychographic profile of you to send you content.
Mhm,
Before 2016, it was all about your friends. And
mhm.
if you did take pictures on Snapchat, it was ephemeral. So you didn't stress too much about it. You took a picture, you posted it, it was gone in 24 hours, and you just moved on with your life.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so I think people are nostalgic for that time.
Yeah.
And, you've seen apps here and there pop up, Be Real, and all this stuff, where folks have tried to recapture that spirit of like, being there, being in the
Mhm, mhm,
moment,
mhm.
not being too manufactured or curated. Even the memes
Or
back
being your
then, if you remember,
friends, like,
with your
where
friends.
like, the content that I'm seeing are the people that I'm following. The last place is Twitter, right? Like, Twitter is, like, where I feel like I see more people that I actually follow, but I feel like that's completely gone from, like,
We
Instagram,
don't even have the same memes anymore. That's the
Yeah.
biggest, I think. Like, memes are such a interesting, like, commentary on
Mhm.
culture, right?
Mm.
And like, I mean, this is the meme team. Like, you know
Yeah.
it. And so when people are in conversation with a meme, and it's like a very like shared thing, right?
Mhm.
It's beautiful. You could say
Yeah.
a thing to somebody and they'll get it. You didn't have to be terminally online to know that Harambe was a gorilla, right? Like,
Yeah.
it was just everywhere.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
you kind of had like Pokemon Go and all
mhm,
these fun stories of people in 2016 going out and about and making friends because they ran into each other because they were trying to hunt the same Pokemon. Like,
mhm,
there is a beautiful thing about that, like, shared collectiveness that has only accelerated
mhm.
in forking directions because of the algorithmic feed.
Yeah.
And I think people don't necessarily have the words for it yet. But I think we're going to start to see a backlash when people realize that actually it is not us that is dividing us. It is the
Mhm.
algorithm, because the
Yeah.
algorithm is taking our attention, packaging it, and
Mhm,
selling it to marketers. There's a good way to do that, right? There's a good way to
mhm.
monetize attention. We talked about a few of those examples.
Yeah.
And then there's a negative way to do that, which is actually like divide people
Mhm, mhm.
and push content in their feeds that's going to aggravate them. I just had this observation of like, everybody's so nostalgic for 2016. It was
Yeah.
kind of a bad year. We had a lot of celebrities die. We had a lot of like bad things happen in the world,
Mhm.
but people are still nostalgic for it. And I think it's because the algorithms have taken over.
I think it's also reminding us how little monoculture there is these days, right? Like, as we're talking about this right now, these two moments, the World Cup and the Knicks winning, are huge monoculture moments because most everybody knows what's happening, right?
Yeah.
Even if you don't like soccer and you're not paying attention, you still know that the World Cup is happening, that there are foreigners here to like celebrate, to, watch soccer. But I'm starting to see that even the people that tangentially like it are starting to get in on the content,
Oh, yeah.
because they want to participate and they want to feel like they're part of like what's happening. And that's what I love so much about the Freddie thing, where it's like, it's not happening in New York or LA. It's happening in South Carolina, in Georgia, in like Texas, Tennessee, right? Like all these states, like generally don't get these type of visitors to go, right? Um, So it's getting us to like notice that like, hey, Georgia is actually pretty cool. Like maybe as an American, you should go visit Georgia because Freddie really had a great time there, you know? So it's like bringing attention to all these like cities and states that in general don't get that much attention because
Yeah.
most foreigners that come to New York, come to LA, come to SF. Like those are the main places they go. But, you know, we have such a beautiful country. Some of it is forest, some of it is desert, some of it is like mountains, there's rivers, lakes, like pretty much everything, right? And we're getting to see it from the eyes of like a, you know, someone who hasn't seen that before. And even when they're talking about their food, right? Like they're just like in wonder. Like I saw somebody raving about going to the Golden Corral and I'm like, isn't that like a buffet, you know? But it's like, you know, or going to Buc-ee's, you know, like today I saw this like Frenchman and he made like a video like I went to Buc-ee's. They have like 120 like gas pumps. Why? Why? Like are you gonna like, you know, put fuel in the US military? And it's like, no, it's just Texas. That's Texas for you, you know?
That's
But
so
one thing he
funny.
said was that like I came here to judge, but I stayed for the snacks. And I was like, is
Hmm.
that not just the most like
Well,
that
that
America
staying for
is,
the
right?
snacks is the most American thing ever. I gotta say,
Exactly,
whenever
right?
whenever I have family from out of the country come and visit, they are blown away
Oh,
by the flavors of Cheetos and Doritos.
oh,
And the other thing I want to mention because you reminded me of this story. So around 2:30 a.m. Right, so the
mhm,
Knicks win. We're out on the streets. We're
mhm, mhm,
celebrating. Everybody's having a really great time. The Brazil Morocco game had just finished,
mhm.
so folks had come in from New Jersey where the game was into the city to watch the Knicks and to celebrate. So you had folks in their Brazil jerseys, you had Morocco jerseys, you had Knicks jerseys. We all end up in a bar and the bartenders are overwhelmed, right?
Yeah,
So one of my friends goes, "Hey, your music kind of sucks and everybody wants to dance. Could we run the music?" And the
yeah.
guy's like, "Yeah, sure." So he gives us the aux cable. So at 2 a.m., we suddenly become the DJs at this small bar, playwrights on 46th and 8th.
Oh my
And
god,
we
yeah, well,
start playing
everyone's that place.
music. We start playing music, and you have Colombians and Moroccans and Knicks fans, whatever ethnicity and nationality
Mhm,
we
mhm,
are. We had the United Nations of like
mhm,
bar hopping in this bar.
mhm.
And then one of my friends throws on like Punjabi, like Bhangra dance music.
Yeah, yeah.
And you had these nationalities dancing to Indian dance music. It was the most New York night. And like, yeah, nobody had their phones out. I feel like
Yeah.
all these stories I'm telling you, Sonia, the one common denominator is presence over performance. And
Yeah,
that's the crazy thing is I think as you're telling me this, like this monoculture was really about presence.
yeah,
And now as we bifurcate, we become about performance. And yes, brands are capitalizing on it, but I do think to maybe put a bow on all of this,
yeah, yeah,
if a brand recognizes how to capture presence, right?
yeah.
And not make it about what are we going to put on social, but
Mhm,
actually just have it be a thing that like spreads by word of mouth. Like, oh
mhm,
man, you had to be there. Like
mhm.
that's actually a really powerful thing that not enough brands are tapping into. But yeah, Saturday night was really a you had to be there kind of moment.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I've got two lessons on top of that. So one is preparation is what can make spontaneity possible, right? So
Mm.
Nike, right? Huge reason why this commercial was able to come together is that they locked in Billy Joel, they locked in, you know, Josh Safdie, and they knew what the like framing of the ad was going to be about, which is the fans, right? I'm sure if you know the Spurs had won, they would have had another idea that would have like been good for them, right? But the fact that they had to come up with these two ideas, prepare for what was gonna, you know, happen, and then be able to like run with it, show that like it seems spontaneous, but there's so much preparation that goes, you know, behind it. And then the other thing is that there's a difference between adding to a moment and having people celebrate with you as a brand versus trying to take value from it for your own like selfish purposes. There's a reason why we like the Nike commercial. We didn't like the Kalshi, you know, stuff because it feels like you're just trying to take advantage of people that want to like participate and you're making it about yourself. Whereas like Nike knew like if we make this about anybody, it should be about the fans who've been waiting and waiting and waiting for this moment to happen since like 1973.
So, topic number three. One of the most interesting stories to follow in sports right now is what the heck is going on with Ferrari F1,
Yeah.
and it's specifically my favorite driver, Charles Leclerc, who 2 weekends in a row has had weekends to forget. So let's
Mm.
go back 2 weeks ago now. He is, I think, running third in Monaco, and all of a sudden, uh, right after the race restarts, puts the car into the wall on a turn in Monaco. Now, it should be mentioned, Charles Leclerc is from Monaco. He has won
Yeah.
on this track before. He has driven this track many times. So why did it go into the wall? Well, he claims Brembo, the brakes manufacturer, is to blame. And all of a sudden, Brembo comes out and very publicly says, well, this is very premature. This is very surprising. This is great astonishment, I think was the word they used. And this is not what happened. So they directly contradicted the driver. And Leclerc votes with his feet and decides, okay, he's actually going to take the brakes that his teammate Lewis Hamilton has and
Mhm.
moves on to carbon industry. And Sonia, here's the most interesting part in all of this. Even though Leclerc walked away and Ferrari supported him and is now putting him on the same brakes that his teammate has, internal investigations might have actually shown that it wasn't Brembo's fault. So
Mhm.
that left me thinking, what is a brand supposed to do in this?
Yeah, I mean, part of the thing that stuck out to me was I was surprised that he did go so like deep into saying that it was, the brakes. But then when they responded, it was so defensive. They didn't even include anything saying that like any data to back up what they were saying. They could have taken a softer route, not gone so defensive, not hit back on him a little. Like it felt even a little too personal too. So it's like at that point, what is Charles Leclerc going to do but like walk away, right? And when he sees my teammate is out here killing it, like winning P2 that race, winning P1 this race, like maybe it is that. Maybe I do want to do more of what my teammate is doing and he doesn't have, these breaks. So I feel like that was the problem that I have. So what do brands do? It's like, well, you don't go negative. Never go negative. I think that's always like a huge thing you can do. You can always, divert the attention. We're going to look into it. We're going to make sure that it's not a brake issue. Obviously we want everything to be the best for our driver. We support Charles Leclerc. We're going to look into it. They could have just said that, but it's like they got defensive and they went after him a little bit more than they had to.
The thing that people remember the most is what is said in the immediate aftermath,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The first 24, 48 hours. In the end, it very much could have been Leclerc's fault.
Yeah.
But nobody is going to follow up on the story because the news cycle moves so fast.
Hmm.
So the first thing you say as a brand is the most important thing. And
Hmm.
Sonia, I think you're absolutely right. The right words for them would have been safety is paramount to our business.
Yeah.
Safety of our drivers is the most important thing that matters. We are a brakes manufacturer. We have to get this
Hmm.
right. We will do a thorough investigation and we will make sure that our drivers are safe. We, are obviously very disappointed that this happened with Leclerc. We don't
Hmm.
know the cause yet. We're going to do the right thing by our driver.
Hmm.
That would have been the exact thing for them to say
Yeah.
because that is what people would have remembered. Now, that investigation later could have found that it was absolutely not the brake company's fault, and then
Hmm.
they can go take a victory lap and they can be vindicated.
Right.
But people would not remember the vindication
Right.
if they had done the negative tack that they took. Now,
Hmm.
the other thing I want to bring up in this is the massive power dynamic that has shifted between brands and individuals, and in this case specifically, professional athletes.
Hmm. Hmm.
You know, I remember 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it really mattered who an athlete signed with because
Hmm.
the brand they signed with lent legitimacy to their stardom, right? You
Hmm.
wanted to get signed by Nike. You wanted Steph Curry to get signed by Under Armour. You wanted these brands because, you know, getting that shoe deal, getting that overall brand deal meant you were anointed as a superstar. It's
Hmm.
completely the other way around now. It is all about the athlete. The athlete has the following, they have the support, they
Hmm.
have the love of the fan, and you as the brand are just trying to like bask in the glow of these athletes, right? And you've seen that athletes recognize this. So
Yeah.
LeBron is a great example who knew he was more than an athlete from the very start, right? Pursued by every single brand, decides he's going to launch Spring Hill and he's going to launch, his own media company. And he's going to launch his own production company and his own agency. Like Very, very smart thing early on for him to do, to
Mhm.
recognize, hey, brands want to work with me. Great. I'm going to run it through my own ecosystem instead of having to share 10% over here and 10% over there.
Mhm.
And brands had to come correct. If you want to be part of LeBron's ecosystem, you can. And I think you're seeing this with this next generation of athletes realizing the power they have. And then image and likeness, NIL, which you may have heard about with college athletes, is only an extension of that. So
Mhm.
what do you do if you're a brand in this case, right? Um, jump in, take the onus, take responsibility, even if it's not on you. It
Mhm.
actually may be better to take responsibility and then come back and say, hey, we found that it was due to some other causes, but
Mhm.
we're really happy we did the investigation to prove to everyone that
Mhm.
our stuff is reliable, right? I remember when the Under Armour CEO, when Trump was elected in, I think, 2016 or 17, said he is a great asset to our company. And Steph Curry, who is a star athlete,
Mhm.
said, yeah, if you remove the ET, right? Meaning
Mhm.
asset minus ET.
Mhm.
And Under Armour was now publicly beefing with their biggest star.
Right.
I'll give credit to Kevin Plank. He came out and said, you know what? I misspoke. What I was really talking about was this, this, and this, and actually having a positive impact on our business. But I totally understand how what I said could be taken the way that it was taken. We love Steph. Steph's our guy. He's absolutely right. Right?
Mhm.
Had to walk it back.
Mhm.
And that's okay, because the alternative is Steph Curry decides he doesn't want to be a part of your brand, right?
Right.
And that signal goes to other athletes who no longer want to be a part of your brand. And so I
Mhm.
think this is just the dynamic we live in now. Brands want to think they are bigger than they are,
Mhm.
and they have to realize that, like, they're just one in a line, you know?
Mhm.
The athletes have the power. The athletes are one in a million. And if they don't want to work with your brand, they'll walk down the street and work with your competitor tomorrow, and you will be left in a lurch. So, painful lesson for the brake manufacturer to learn.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. To kind of piggyback on that, I think the lesson for me here is how much more people, audiences, customers, users prefer the individual, like the individuals, the athletes, the ones actually doing the work, than, um, the brands. Even the thing with the Knicks and James Dolan, right? Like that created a whole bunch of drama because he came out and was essentially lying about what happened, and Mamdani, set the record straight, didn't come out and lash out against him. He actually came up with an alternate solution to the problem that ended up getting him more attention. And so like he's building up his own brand and reputation, that he is hardworking, he's wholesome, he wants things to go well for people, he's there for the public, for the people. He's gonna do whatever he can to make it work for them. He's a genuine like Knicks fan. They're willing to give him the benefit of doubt because he's been the one building up that brand. Same as like the athletes, right? When they're the ones building up their knowledge, expertise on like what they're, building and bringing the community with them, they can go out there and put that onus on them and say like, when I move to this, sports team, or when I, go to this brand, my fans are going to follow me. Right. So that's, what happened here. And then the second thing here is that there's a difference between a product failure and a comms failure. Right. When you allow the product failure or the possibility of one, and you get so defensive that you make it into a comms failure, you failed on two parts. Right. Nobody's going to care about the product failure. Right. But they care about the comms failure because that's what they see. That's what they understand. They see you coming at their favorite driver and saying like, whoa, 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 kid, do you even know what you're talking about? The data shows, like there's no need for that. And now like you're a brake company, like nobody's going to follow you, like, and I think that brands need to recognize whether or not they have power. And right now you don't, right? Like make it about
Yeah.
the people, make it about the athletes, make it about the fans, because that's where, you bring people back to you, right? So I think this kind of like leads to the bigger takeaways for the entire episode. And that's like how important it is to make things about the people, about the fans, about the users, the customers, the ones that like are in it there with you, right? Like they want to participate, they want to have a monoculture. And even with like Americans who aren't, huge fans of soccer, they are fans of their country being shown to them in a wholesome, happy light. And if brands can jump in on that, they're going to have far more success than if they don't, right? This is my whole Monsters Inc. theory where too many brands are stuck in the idea of making people angry and making them scared instead of, making them laugh and bringing joy to them. And just like in the movie, like Monsters Inc., joy and happiness have way more energy and like fulfillment for people than making them angry and like, scared. And I think brands that really want to succeed need to fall back into that wholesomeness and like really just be more positive and make it about people instead of trying to like be negative all the time. I mean, like Nike's coming back from being really ragged on after the Boston Marathon, right? Because people were surprised. Nike has been on a high of like, being there for the Dodgers, being there for Rory McIlroy, who won, the Masters again this year, and then they go and they turn negative, and it's like, whoa, 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 whoa! You're supposed to be celebrating people and then making them want to feel positive and happiness, and then you're like ragging on people who are like trying, They realize, oh shit, like maybe people want to be happy, yeah, like come on, So like, what can you as a brand do to like make people happy and get them to participate? And then the other thing is that like what can you do to bring people together a little bit more, right? Like really try to like, participate. One thing that I'm like that's happening right now with like the World Cup, we'll bring it back to that, is you have the commercials, you have these like hydration breaks, right? That's not happening on Telemundo, right? Because they're like, we want people to, they came out and they said we want people to still feel as if they're part of the game, still participating, still there in the moment, right? Whereas Fox has been like cutting away to commercial breaks, right? And one of the ideas I had was like, if a brand came in, bought the ad space from Fox and said like, hey, well, don't play any commercials, just like just put around the band saying that like, Coca-Cola has bought this like ad space for you to like witness, like how much would people love that brand, like, yeah, like fight against this power, fight against these stupid like commercials and like I'm a marketer, right? Like I'm okay with ads in general, but not for soccer, because you're changing something, you're changing the integrity of what people are used to profit off of it, And so it's just like, how can you get creative and like come up with ways to like make the people, feel as if like you care about them and aren't just trying to like sell to them, which is kind of what we were talking about, the Kalshi Polymarket versus Nike, instance as
Ironically, the
well.
more you make it about yourself, the less the marketing lands, right? And I
Right?
think that's kind of the
Mm-hmm.
summation of it. And yeah, it's a fine line, right? You don't want to just buy the ad space and never actually
Yeah.
show your product or show your brand, but
Mm-hmm.
you show your ethos and your culture that way. That example
Right.
you gave of like, I'm just going to put a thin border around it with my logo at the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm just going to show you what you want to see anyway.
Yeah.
And aren't you so positively connected to my brand because you go, wow, they get what I want in this
Yeah.
moment. Okay, well, if they get what I want here, maybe they get what I want later on as well. The other piece of it is
Mm-hmm.
like authenticity is one of the most counterfeited assets in marketing, right? People have tried to create this authenticity, but I want to take a positive spin on it, not actually a
Mm-hmm.
negative one. What it's showing us is that authenticity is what people are really hungry for. And they're
Mm-hmm.
really hungry for the real communal unmonetized culture, the in-person culture, the phones
Yeah.
away culture. And so what can you as a brand do to be a part of it? Create moments like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's some really fun ones that we saw in the summer where there was a Timothée Chalamet lookalike contest and
Yeah.
Timothée Chalamet showed up, right?
I don't,
And it was
yeah.
and he like came in third, which was really funny. But it's like kind of one of these fun things where how do you make it fun? How do you make it engaging? How do you bring people together, give them
Mm-hmm.
excuses to do so? We have seen time and time again, just in the last 2 weeks, how much people are starving to be together in person.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're a brand that can just say, listen, I'm going to spend the 50,000 bucks I could spend on a billboard, I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to spend on bringing people together to do a fun scavenger hunt in a city,
Mm-hmm.
and just be like at the bottom of the scavenger hunt, just as like brought to you by
Mm-hmm.
Coca-Cola or whatever, right? Hey, that's a really positive brand association because of what you are bringing people, not because you're trying to make it about you. So that's, I think, my big takeaway from all the topics
Yeah.
we've talked about today. Be authentic, speak authentically, give people the ability to engage with each other, not
Mm-hmm.
with you. And because you are the person who created that environment, you will benefit from the positive reaction of it.
Love that. That's a great takeaway. Well, thank you so much, Jay, for joining me. Where can people find you?
Well, I am always on Twitter with my spicy to mild, medium, hot, and Diablo takes at J Kapoor NYC. And check out Climb. We're coming up on episode 100, and then we'll be taking a mini hiatus for the summer, but we'll be back at it in the fall. You can always find us at Climb VSC on YouTube and Twitter. But thank you so much for having me, Sonia. This was so fun. I love talking sports. I love my Knicks. What a great time to be alive. What a great time to be alive in
Yeah.
New York City. And so I'm just so thrilled I got to share this joy with you. Those of you that can hear my voice are hearing me a couple days removed from the Saturday night celebrations. But I'm happy I got to be on here with you.
Awesome. And then you can follow me at Sonia Bushas everywhere. And then you can follow the podcast at Meme Team Pod on YouTube and TikTok, and then Meme Team Podcast on Spotify. See you next week. Bye.